As people created in God's likeness and in his image, people who've been born again by the Spirit of God and are now indwelt by that same Spirit, we have a purpose and a mandate that nobody else can claim and nobody else can carry. But what is that mandate? And how do we understand it? And what does that mean for us as we go about our daily lives with our families, friends, and colleagues, and in our homes, communities, and places of work? To understand our mandate, we need to understand who we are. Our identity is key to us understanding our direction. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus called his followers salt and light. Later, Peter, writing to believers, calls them out as a holy nation, a royal priesthood, and a special possession. In both cases, the identity that's given carries with it an assumed purpose. Salt to flavor and preserve, light to illuminate the whole house, and a holy nation and a royal priesthood who once were in darkness, now called into the light to display the glories of the God who did the calling. The identity assumes a purpose: to be light in the dark, preservation in the face of decay, a visible sign and demonstration of the redemptive and restorative power of the love of God in the lives of his sons and daughters. And as sons and daughters, when we put on our identity, we step into our purpose. When God created the world and placed Adam and Eve into it, he gave them the command to fill the earth and subdue it. He gave them a mandate to take the creation that he had made and to fill it with his image as they walked out in his likeness. At this point, not a single city had been founded, nor a melody composed, or a picture painted, nor a book written, or a technology invented. But God planted all those things inside of us when he created us in his image and in his likeness. We cannot help but experiment and create and build and learn and grow and develop because it's who we are. God put that within us, knowing what we'd create. Since the fall, those things that have been created have been subject to the sinful nature of humanity and the world that we now live in. So along with the beauty of a melody and the depth of a painting, we see the depression of the artist. With the creativity that's fostered in a city, we see cultures that drive unhealthy work practices. And with the extraordinary development of technologies, we observe the threat of unnumbered wrongful applications. But the Bible reveals to us that God's plan is redemption and restoration. And where we see the effects of sin in those areas, it doesn't mean that those things are necessarily wrong and fit for the fire. In fact, what we read about in Revelation is that we see God himself designing a city in which he will dwell for all eternity with a redeemed and restored mankind. Through great periods of history, Christians have operated with a church-centric mindset that has seen us focus inward. God is calling us to a kingdom mindset. That doesn't mean that we abandon meeting together. It means that we broaden our thinking. We need to get hold of the fact that Jesus called us to be the light of the world. Light that illuminates the whole house isn't light that only shines on a Sunday. As citizens of the eternal kingdom of God, we have one moment of opportunity in this temporary location to let the light that's within us shine forth from us to illuminate those around us to see he who is for us. We cannot afford to waste that opportunity by living inside of a mindset that says we've just got to hold on until Jesus comes back. We're not supposed to hope in the promises of heaven and live in a broken world. God is calling us to live in the promises of heaven and to bring hope to a broken world. As Christians, we're called to be salt and light, that royal priesthood and holy nation. And as his sons and daughters, we are uniquely called, equipped, and empowered to carry the kingdom of God into the societies and cultures that we operate in. It's not just our duty, it's our DNA. Every day, in every conversation that we have, in every piece of work we produce, coffee that we share, blog that we write, and photo that we post, we have the opportunity to be the kind of light that illuminates the whole house. And it's only together, when we collectively stand up and let our light shine, that we have the ability to illuminate the whole house. Every workplace, every school, every governmental department, every street, every house, every marriage, every family can be lit up when the sons and daughters of God move as one. Isaiah 60, verse 1-4 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. When we engage with our destiny to be those who light up the whole house, we can expect that the world, which is covered in darkness, will be drawn to the light. Nations and kings, leaders and influencers, cultures and creators. And as we shine together as the light that illuminates the whole house, we must be that salt that flavors and preserves, that fights against corruption. Romans 12, verses 1 and 2 says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." God's kingdom is in the business of transformation, not conformation. When Jesus said that we are the salt of the earth, he gave a warning against the salt losing its saltiness. If the salt loses the very properties that give it the ability to perform its purpose, then it's not fit for anything. And as we seek to be the light that lights the whole house, we must ensure that we don't compromise with the darkness. 1 John chapter 1, verse 4 says, "If we say we have fellowship with him, yet walk in the darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth." Ephesians 5, 8-11 says, "For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of the light, for the fruit of the light consists in all goodness, righteousness, and truth. Test and prove what pleases the Lord. Have no fellowship with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them." There'll be times as you seek to be light in your workplace, in your marriage, family, community, and every other place you operate in, that you will be tempted to compromise, to make an adjustment or an allowance in your behavior, your speech, your thinkings, or your values. We may even be tempted to think that making small compromises in one area of our lives will actually open up opportunities to shine brighter further down the road or in another area. But be careful about such thinking. Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians 11 that Satan comes disguised as an angel of light. Temptation comes in many forms, and often the easiest way to make us succumb to it is by appealing to the good desire inside of us and asking us to make sacrifices to that desire, thereby setting it up as an idol in our lives, rather than trusting God to look after us and staying true to what he has said. Let me give you an example. As you seek to increase your influence in the workplace, to progress and gain that promotion so that you can have even more influence for the kingdom and let your light shine brighter, you may spot an opportunity that is going to mark you out, but it's going to compromise somewhere else. Maybe it means putting in an extraordinary amount of hours and thereby neglecting your spouse and your family. Maybe it's getting involved in conversations and gossip that you know to be wrong, but that will bring you influence with those higher up than yourself. These kinds of compromises are all around us, and it can be the easiest thing in the world to look at them and see them as a price worth paying to increase our influence. However, when we compromise, we're not only saying to God, "I don't trust you enough to do the things your way," we're also losing our saltiness. And far from positioning ourselves to shine brighter, our light is diminished every time we choose to do things our way and not God's way. The only way we can effectively be salt as well as light is to choose every day to take up our cross and to follow Jesus, to die to ourselves, putting off our old nature and putting on the new man, all of which points us toward placing our complete trust and faith in the mercy, grace, and provision of God to position us as a lamp on a stand and not one hidden under a bowl. God has called us to that purpose. Sometimes we can look at our lives and our families and our workplaces and our situations and say there is no way I can be a light here. But when God has called people to purpose and those people are obedient to trust in God to bring them to the purpose, He makes a way where there is no way. He splits seas. He makes roads through rivers. He tears down walls. He breaks open prison cells and turns every evil intention of the enemy towards his good purpose. Shortcuts can look tempting, but so often they actually lead to cul-de-sacs. And the only way to get back on track is to retrace your steps. I want to encourage you today to stay the course with God and let him lead you by the way that he is taking you on. The journey may be rough at times, but when God has called you to purpose, there is nothing that can get in your way if you keep your eyes on the Waymaker. I want to leave you with this challenge today. What will your family, what will your community, your workplace, and your village, town, or city look like when you begin to stand up and be a distinctive light that illuminates the whole house? As we adopt a kingdom mindset that looks outward, we can see whole communities influenced, illuminated, and directed to God. We'll see cultures shifted from operating according to earthly values to functioning in heavenly values. We'll see addiction shattered, families restored, unemployment eradicated, abuses corrected, justice administered, churches empowered, God's children revealed, and creation restored. It's time to put on your identity, to let your light shine and your salt remain distinctive. The world is looking for a light to call them out of darkness. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. If you've enjoyed today's video, I want to encourage you to get connected to us here at Life Church. We've created what we're calling The Journey, and The Journey is a great place for you to go and be equipped, encouraged, and resourced as you go out on your own personal journey of discovering who God created you to be. Inside of The Journey, you'll find all sorts of resources that are just right for you, no matter what stage of your journey with God you may be on. We'd encourage you to get connected to us via the link below and take this opportunity to grow in your journey with God.